Oh, I have been muted the whole fucking time. Okay, I hope you can hear me now. Well, perfect, and you couldn't hear all the shit I was saying before. You could just enjoy the music. Okay, let me see real quick. Does everything look alright? I think yes. Yep, yep, yep. Now I also should be hearable. Wait, let me update my stream title real quick. Okay, now I think I have the right title. Should be hearable. I have all the text. Okay, nice. Then let's start over, shouldn't we? Welcome to my first stream, to my first YouTube video, however you're watching this right now. Who am I? Why am I doing what I'm doing right now? I'm Ed, and game designer working in the industry since 2001, roughly. So now almost 3 years, I would say. Um, what am I doing here? Besides working in the industry, I'm also working on my own indie game, my own project, since almost 6 years, I would say, right now. And at some point, I thought, like, hey, why not show you a bit of what I'm doing here? Also, after some talking with friends and so on, I got dragged into this whole thing here. So I said, why not try it out? Um, so what I'm be doing is basically stream my development of the game and answer any questions if there comes some up about the game or about game development or game design specifically in the industry. Like, how do you get into it? What are you doing as a game designer? Or maybe also I can talk a bit about the other jobs you can do. Of course, as much as I know about them. And yeah, if you're just interested or just want to talk, just put your questions in the chat and I hope I see them and react to them in time. Let's start with the game itself, I would say. Um, I think the best way to show you what the game is about is to just start it real quick. Basically, you can imagine it's like a mix of Hollow Knight and Undertale or some of the old Final Fantasy games. When Unity is done loading, I can show you how the core gameplay looks like. When Unity is done loading, it always takes a while. Maybe my PC is also exploding right now. That's also always an opportunity or possibility. Ah, perfect. Okay, so basically the Hollow Knight part of, or the part I looked at in Hollow Knight is the whole action combat. So you have basic movement, jumping, running left, right. Even though the perspective is a bit like 3D like, you only can walk to the left and right. I just first of all like the perspective, and second of all, it has another reason why I needed this, which I will go into later. And other, of course, the whole platforming part. We also have the combat. Um, most of the assets, as you can see, like the health bar or energy bar, mana bar, however you want to call them, are placeholders, as well as some of the animations, like the dash animation, of course, needs some overhaul, but everything will be done in time. as well as the punching animation. The animation itself, I think, already is quite fine. Maybe I will make it a bit faster, so it feels a bit snappier and the player doesn't have to wait for so long for the whole animation to end. But of course, the punch aura, as I call it itself, it's an update. But let's see how it works with enemies. As you can see, we have one enemy already. You can track the player, attack you if you get close enough. If you get damage, you should get damage. There's already an error message. Awesome. Here we come to the live debugging part. I can't debug because I'm not a programmer. I'm only a game designer. So where's the difference? A programmer could actually go into the code and adjust this issue. A game designer's a guy who's saying basically, hey, there's an issue, I don't want it like that. Change it for me. If you can do it on your own, of course, it would be perfect. But I tried coding, and for the life of it, I'm shit at it. I can't get into it. So that's why I'm working with a programmer on this project. So basically, I'm the game designer. I have a programmer, and I also work with several artists on this project. Right now, I'm mostly working with, or only working with freelance artists. So I'm working on a order to order basis, basically. What you can see right now, the whole environment are the most recent environment assets I ordered. So that's why you see that a lot of stuff is cut off because um, I didn't plan the edges and stuff like this, the walls. For now, only ground platforms and the background itself. And the hero, the playable character I'm playing right now, as well as all the animations are done by um, animation character artist. Oh, my Unity froze. Oh, okay, it's working again. That's always fun. Okay, then the getting hit is not working yet, but it doesn't look like a big problem. Or rather, it was working, but it's broken. I think, yeah, if I walk into him, it's still working. So here you can see what would happen if I would get hit by the attack. We have this little screen shake and how would you call it? I get thrown back kind of a bit. Impact. It's not perfect, I would say. Looks a bit funny how the background is shaking more than the rest of the screen. But I think it's already like pretty nice, especially if we have like audio and so on in the future. I'm pretty sure it will look great. So what you also can do, of course, is punching the enemy itself. Right now it's pretty basic. As I said, the auras still need some overhaul. But in general, like the basic gameplay is already quite nice, I would say. To reload the scene to get our enemy back. What can I say else about the combat right now? One thing that you might see is the enemy is also like going back a bit if I hit him with my third attack. Like he's get pushed away a bit. That's why, or that's rather because I wanted the game to have a bit of physics, like if you would see in a Smash game, like Smash Brothers. So you can imagine it like Hollow Knight with a bit of Smash physics, I would say. As well as I will have some more combo stuff, as you can see, down attack, up attack, stuff like this also is already implemented. And different finishers will also be included at some point. At least that's what I'm planning for. Okay, and then that's only one part of the whole game. So for now, you could say like, hey, it's just a basic platformer with some action combat. Looks pretty basic. But what if you said, hey, I'm not that into action games. Like I'm bad at them. Like for example, Hollow Knight. A lot of players were not able to play it or didn't want to play it because it actually is not so easy to get into. Um, it can be quite harsh at the beginning, especially if you're not accustomed to game like these. Um, so what I thought of was, hey, why not give the player more options to play this game? So I thought of implementing a second game mode by pressing the P button. You transport everything that was on the screen and transfer it into a turn-based combat scene. So that's where the Undertale reference was coming from. Not only is Sans here, of course, only as a placeholder, like I don't want to get sued or something like this. Um, but yeah, here you have a classic turn-based action scene, how you could imagine it in old Final Fantasy games. Of course, all the assets are missing, except some of the character assets. Also, there's obviously a bug that I guess I pressed the P button while I was in the falling or jumping animation, so it saved it like this. Of course, the hero should be in the island animation right here. But what can you actually do here? So, of course, the most simple thing is attacking. Here are four attacks that the player can slot in the menu to select that he would have to be able to choose here right now. You can imagine it like equipment, or rather like in Pokemon, where you have four attacks for your Pokemon. Instead of teaching your Pokemon the attack, you basically equip it before a battle and always can swap it out as you want. Because I always thought in Pokemon this was a bit stupid that you had to decide for four specific attacks which Pokemon should have which, and you had to throw away all the tech stuff like this. I thought like, hey, why not just select the attacks you want to take into a specific battle? So if it's not working out with one set, you can easily just um, switch them out. And that's the approach I took here. So right now they are not filled. That's why it's only saying like attack 1, attack 2, attack 3. Um, I can show you later how to I equip them. And of course, a basic attack that you always have. So if you don't have the possibility for any of the attacks, you at least always have the basic attack. Then here you select the enemy. Right now you only have one, so take him. And the same you would do for all your party members. So you saw in the action scene that was only controlling my main character, my hero. So um, of course, I cannot control all my party members at the same time in the action mode. I think this would be a completely different beast and a very interesting game, I guess, but a different kind of game. What I was thinking of is that maybe you can use your party members in the action mode as kind of like call them for a special attack or something like this. But this is all like for the future. It's all nice to have. Um, what their role is here in the time-based mode, of course, to support you in the battle. So every character has like its role. So the hero is a bit more variable, so you can kind of give him whichever attacks you want. But he is, or the attacks you can give him are mostly based on offensive combat moves. So she should be the damage dealer because the idea is that um, you don't always have your whole party at hand in the story. So at some points you may have to fight with only the hero. So you should always have very versatile character at your hand. Um, and your second partner is called Ken. He's more like a supportive role, so his attacks should be more like a support mage or a debuffer or buffer. How you would, if you think like in basic or in standard Final Fantasy terms, like your, I don't know, what was it called? Name from Final Fantasy X or something like this. Um, so he is not, his focus is not dealing damage to enemies, but rather debuffing or buffing your own characters or putting on status alignments or ailments and uh, healing or removing status negative status ailments on your own character, stuff like this. Um, but again, right now I haven't equipped any attacks right now, so he also only has the basic attack, which just deals some damage to the enemy. But I would also want to show you other interactions. So what you also can do is interact. Here's the Undertale part that I mentioned in the beginning, why I said it's like a mix from Hollow Knight and Undertale. Maybe it's like Hollow Knight, Undertale, and Final Fantasy, or Hollow Knight, Undertale, and Pokemon, stuff like this. Um, you can interact with your enemies with different non-fighting interaction, I would say. You have the standard like analyze, where you can just look at your enemy and get some stats. Actually, I don't know right now what it would show. I haven't used it in a while, so let's see it live. What will happen? Um, and the other one was talk. So this is the Undertale aspect. Like you can theoretically win any fight without actually fighting. Um, so similar to the sparing system in Undertale, you can change the kind of like karma values, I call them, from an enemy to spare him at some point. But of course, the enemy won't like give up after only 1 or 2 turns, so you will have to do it for a while. Um, and have to take some damage for it instead and survive. And maybe you even have to damage the enemy a bit, so to get him to his threshold. But you have to kind of find this out for each enemy on their own. So this is like the either you find it out on your own or you have to Google it or something like this if you are not into that. But yeah, um, so you have different talking points, and basically the point is here you just have to choose the right one for the specific enemy to find out, hey, what's the correct way to address him, or how do I get his like karma points in the value I want to. So you can't read them fully because not everything is adjusted, as you can see. Um, but you have the three options: ask about to stay, show that there's fire, or do a magic trick. So it's just some random stuff. I just babbled up. As you can see, the game also supposed to be not completely serious, so it's a rather yeah, funny, joke-heavy game as Undertale. But of course, there's an overall story that should be um, that should make some sense at least, and have some emotional depth, I guess I would call it. Um, I also forgot what actually the correct answer here is because I wrote this a while ago. So it's actually funny. So I'm playing it like a new user would. So let's find out what would I have done. I think this one, the do a magic trick, would confuse him, shout that there's a fire, would make him probably angry, and ask about to stay is either the good one or a neutral one. I also have options that make the enemies mad. So you not only can finish a battle by sparing an enemy, but you can also absorb enemies. So that's kind of like the bad way. So um, you have three ways actually to finish a fight. You can beat an enemy or kill an enemy, however you see it. That's like the neutral way, even if it sounds weird. But in the context of the story that I won't go into yet, because I think it would be too much, um, uh, is killing actually in this game is not the worst thing you can do. The worst thing you can do is absorb somebody, because this will actually like delete this enemy from this story, as I would call it. So this is the bad option, and the good option would be to spare the enemy and kind of release him, I would say, which is the spare equivalent to Undertale. So right, you cannot only use one of these options to spare an enemy, you can also use one of those to absorb him, to get him to a threshold to be able to absorb him. You can also do this by attacking him to get him low enough. At some point, you will get the option then. Um, but you don't have to. Also, it's of course risky to attack him because you are not, or you don't know how much damage the enemy can take at all points. So if you are not sure, maybe the next attack could kill him, it's safer to actually maybe use one of those commands if you want to spare or absorb him, of course. So let's take the ask about to stay for now. Um, all right, this is now the resolution phase, I would say. Here we depict what is actually happening. So how this works is I now chose all the three interactions for our characters. I think maybe I skipped sounds here right now. But how they play down now is that every character in the scene has a speed value, and the one with the highest speed value just starts. So as in Pokemon or any, to be honest, turn-based combat game. So Ken started with analyzing the enemy. All right, yeah, he used analyze. I didn't skip sounds. So I now get information about our enemy. What do we have? We have the name, the elements, the type, the current HP, which we currently don't show yet. Okay, here's the information. He seems to be easily confused. Now I remember how I set it up. So the name is just flavor. It's just interesting to know, hey, what's his name? The element and the type are important for the damage calculation in the game. So how you can imagine damage calculation to work is, I won't go over the whole formula because it's a bit longer and complicated, but for the player, what he has to know is each character has an element and each attack has an element as well as a type. Each character has a type and each character has a type. So you can kind of treat elements and types the same. Um, Only that they are two different variables, but they have the same functionality, I would call it. So for the element, it's quite easy as you know it from Pokemon, Persona, whatever. Fire beats, I think, wood or grass. Grass beats water, and so on. Um, at the moment, I have 9 elements and neutral plants, so 10 elements, I guess, who all beat each other in one way. So it's not super complicated as in Pokemon, as in fire beats grass and it beats fire also beat ice, for example. Um, one element only has one weakness and one strength. So fire is weak against water, or water is strong against fire. But fire is strong against grass, and grass is weak against fire. So what does this mean? Pretty easy. If you use a fire attack against a grass enemy, you will do, I think, 1.5 damage is what I set up right now. All the variables, all the values right now are, of course, yet to change. So they are not fixed. Also, balancing I haven't touched at all right now. It's all about the core mechanics of the game. And if you attack a weak element, so if the enemy would be fire, you only deal half your damage. So um, if if I take with a fire attack against a water enemy, the damage would be halved. With the type, it's the same, but it's a bit less. It's just like a small bonus for the case that I have a lot of neutral enemies, you don't have a lot of elemental attacks, because especially at the beginning, it might be that you don't have so many of them, because my plan is to unlock the attacks and all the different elements step by step in different um, worlds in the game. So at the beginning, you only have probably only 1 or 2 elements, and it will get more and more the longer you play. So that's why I included the type, which basically does the same. So we have physical, magical, and special type. So physical beats magic, magic beats special, and special beats physical. And there's it's exactly the same. So you will get a 1.25 boost, I think, against if you attack with physical attack against the magic enemy, and you will deal 0.75 damage if you attack with a physical attack against a special enemy. And of course, these are all additive. So if you do an effective fire attack and an effective physical attack, so the element and the type is effective, these add up. So it actually makes sense to plan out um, your set of attacks before a battle, and also analyzing your enemy or knowing your enemy, of course. Now I know the type of the enemy and the element, so the most effective type would be to use the water and special attack. What I also added was a same type bonus for the exact reason I just mentioned for the early game, about how the player might not have enough elements at the beginning. So I wanted the player to be not like not in a disadvantage if he uses his element attacks in the world he got the element. So let's talk from about the first world. So the first world is the fire world, for example, and you will get a lot of fire attacks, of course, there. But also there will be a lot of fire enemies. Like, makes sense, right? Why would there be wood enemies or grass enemies that you can actually use your effective attacks against them? Of course, I will include some of them, and I will also include some water enemies. Um, we can also talk about dual types. I haven't thought about this yet, but this would also be, of course, interesting. But what I want to say is you will mostly be fighting fire enemies with fire attacks. So what I added was the same type bonus. So if you attack a fire enemy with a fire attack, you will also get an 1.25 bonus, I think. So if you hit the type bonus and the same type bonus, you will get basically like an elemental bonus, which I think is fair. So you are not, or you're like a bit um, motivated to use your elemental attacks correctly. Um, what else? The yeah, right, the flavor text. So he seems to be easily confused. So this text is actually it's a bit like a hint for the player how he can or what talk options he can choose against the enemy. So if you remember with Sans right here, I used the talk option, and if I would have analyzed earlier, I would have known um, what is the most likely talk option that is correct to use against the enemy. In this case, you want to confuse them, so you want to say some like random stuff that the enemy will just like think what. Um, to get the spare option at least. That's the idea I have at least with these flavor text. Sometimes, of course, they can be a bit misleading, or they can be like a hint at, hey, maybe you can use a specific item or a specific attack on this enemy, and something might happen. Generally, the analyze attack should give you some information or some help how to beat this enemy in either an alternative way or in the most optimal way. So now I used up my analyze. Now Sans right here is using the talk on the enemy. And what I used was, oh no, that, oh, maybe I should show what I said. That makes sense, right? I only showing the answer right now. So what I said, I think, is I was asking about his day. So he answered, oh, not bad. Thanks for asking. So his mood seems to have increased, um, which increases release level by 1. The release level is the like a threshold you have to get over to actually release the enemy. So to have the good despairing option basically. This value is hidden for the player. Like I'm showing it right now here to see it from a dev perspective that it's working or that I know what is happening here. But the player will basically only see, hey, something happened. I don't know if it was good or bad. Only like on the reaction, the player can like interpret it in a certain way. Um, what else? Right, if this level reaches a certain threshold, then you get the option to actually release the enemy, just like in Undertale. Um, if you if you know how it works there. And the last is the actual attack of the enemy. This one we are doing in autoplay. I will probably ask my programmer to make it a bit slower because you can see shit right now. But basically what happened is I hit my attack, it depicted the damage values, and um, it was enough to one-shot the enemy. So the values are definitely not adjusted quite yet. And at the end you can see like all the stuff you get from the battle, like um, Right now you get no experience because I didn't set any value, but you would also see like items and stuff like that. And when the combat ends, you will go back to the action mode where we started like 20 minutes ago or something like this. So yeah, if you haven't seen this yet because you just joined or something, or you fell asleep, I don't know. So the actual combat in the game looks like this. You run around and just punch enemies and so on. But at any time you can press a button to take everything on the screen and take them into a battle. So I can show it real quick again. Like you have our enemy here, and normally you would fight him like this, and at some point when you're saying like, ah, now I don't want to fight him in action mode anymore, let's take him into the turn-based mode. You can continue the battle like this. And also you can, at any point, just run away and reset the whole thing and continue to fight like this. From design perspective, of course, there will be some incentives to actually change the different combat modes. So stuff like if you fight too long in the action mode, the enemies could get like a buff or get stronger or more aggressive, get some new attacks, maybe something like this. And when you change the mode, it will of course take them out of their action mode and put them in the turn-based mode where they don't have their aggressive attacks and buffs anymore. But the same goes for the turn-based mode. Like after some time, they might get some buffs and stuff like this, but they are only for the specific mode. So if you change the mode, they will be set back to the status that you left them in. So for normal enemies like this one here, I think I won't put too many of those in there because I want players to generally be able to play the game any way they want. So if they wanted to play the game fully in action mode, they can. But if they want to play the game fully in turn-based mode, they also can. It just will be a bit harder, probably, because the optimal way to play it would be to um, switch the modes in the correct moment. So was there anything else? Ah, yeah. Okay, what you can see right now is the release and absorb option showed up. I guess either because I lowered his threshold, because lower dealing damage gains points for release and absorb. But you definitely shouldn't be able to do it from the beginning. So I have to look into what happened here. But yeah, now I can show you what I meant with how this works. So if you release the enemy, the others are irrelevant what you do. Actually, they are not, because if they are faster, they will kill the enemy before I can release them. So I need to do an passive action. So I have to think about this from design perspective actually. Like maybe interactions should only have a higher speed than attacks. I think this should be fine. This would make sense. Exactly like running away, stuff like this. They should always have like first prior. Yeah, exactly, because now they're analyzing if I would have attacked him, he would have died. Just attacked and released him. As you can see, everything going as planned. No bugs at all, but that's how game development goes, right? Alright, one thing I wanted also to show was how I equip items by the button though. Shit, this was the wrong one. Right, this shouldn't be possible, of course. You shouldn't be able to go into the turn-based mode without an enemy. Oh, okay, I can't even return without an enemy. Interesting. Oh wait, maybe the menu is deactivated. This could be because it was breaking something. But yeah, how the menu basically is just like a equipment menu, where you can see your different attacks that you have collected, gathered, unlocked, however you want to call it, um, and then set them into your slots for the actual battle. Should have been escape. It's not working right now. Okay. What else is there? The environment, of course. So what does every action 2D platformer need? Platforming. And as you can see, the world is pretty empty right now. Also not very long because I haven't done a lot of level design yet. So that's what I want to do right now. Basically, the part I sadly hate the most, but I can now force myself to by streaming it and showing it to you. Um, I want to continue the level design of the level, also because that's what I'm easily able to do as a game designer without like having to contact my programmer for every single thing. Um, I can just block out the level already, and as you can see, the assets are also not perfect at the moment. Everything stuff that has to be adjusted. Next order. But I can already work with what I have, right? You can look at it like a Mario Maker editor with very, very little or few options to uh, set actually a level or to manipulate the level. Um, so what I did is I had some rough paper sketches how I imagined the level to look like. So at the beginning, I was thinking that the player would start like at the top of a mountain, um, and has to walk down like a long pair of stairs, I would call it. At the beginning, I wanted them to be slopes, but slopes are a bitch in coding, so I just said, fuck it, let's make stairs. And this is what we got right now. So I will continue the stairs a bit more, I think, because I want some more height difference. And then I would continue with like some basic platforming, I would say tutorial sets, because this is the first thing the player will do. He will like run around here and will just get accustomed to the controls and stuff like this. Um, and at the beginning, I don't want him to do anything completely mental, so he will just walk around a bit, jump a bit, get a bit accustomed to height and so on, so he can jump down, up. And at some point, I will give him like a few platforms where he has to jump more precisely. I would say about like gaps where he can fall off and get damage, um, to get accustomed to what is going to come. Because of course, um, it's not only a platformer. Oh, it is a platform, and in each platformer you will have to up the challenges more and more the longer the game goes on. So at some points, you of course will have also different movement options. So like the dash you saw, I showed you. This is something the player will unlock that allows him to get some more space, as you can think of, which allows me to include more different like platforming challenges. But right now the player only has his movement and his jump, so I don't want him to do any crazy stuff. So this is like basic tutorial thinking. Usually you do the tutorial at the end of a game, as weird as it sounds, um, because in the tutorial you have to basically teach the player everything he has to know to get going. Like this is, I think, can call it kind of like the 5 minute rule. Um, if the player does not is not interested in the game in the first 5 minutes, um, he will probably drop the game. So you have to catch him. You have to kind of getting the game, having fun at the game. So you have to make the tutorial fun enough, but also understandable enough for the player to wanting to continue on his own. So you don't want to do too much text, but you have to do enough so the player can understand what's going on. If it's an experienced player who already has played platformers like Hollow Knight, for example, then they will be more easily to get into it, of course. So for players like these, it's also maybe a good idea to have like a skip tutorial section, like, hey, just do your thing. If you know what you're doing, just start, right? Um, right, so this is what I will be doing right now, is basically preparing a section where the player will just have to do some simple jumps, and then combine it, of course, with enemies. Because at the beginning, then the player will have a fight. It will be like a forced boss fight, as in typical Souls fashion, where you will get accustomed to the basic controls for action and time-based combat. And then I will just let the player run around a bit. And then sprinkle, of course, enemies in here and there to make it a bit harder for him. So let's just continue with the steps right here. So what I want to do right now is probably what I did are some smaller slopes. I think I will just copy the same one here. Maybe add another one of those. I could do this with a grid system, you would think right now. And trust me, I tried. And for the life of me, I couldn't get it to work because my tiles are all different sizes. Can you see it? See it like, I can see it like, yeah, probably not. See it in gizmos. Kinda, I guess. Yeah, you can see here, kinda like the tiles look like. This edge, for example, is a tile as well as this whole platform here, or ground tile. And it's really hard, or at least I didn't manage to do it, to set up a grid tile with different sizes of tiles. And also, I will have like various different, I guess, height adjustments game, which also will be a bit harder to do with tiles, especially tiles this big. So it's working out right now. It will be a bit more work for me for setting this up, but I will survive, and I think it will be a fine outcome. Also, I think a lot of games are actually doing it like this. If you are crazy rich, like Ubisoft, of course, you have like its own editor. I think Rayman, Just Rayman Games had like an editor that could procedurally generate environment assets, which is insane. You can like watch it up on YouTube. It's like the dream of every level designer. Kind of like just draw a map basically in a block out, if you know what a block out is, like just placing some like white blocks to set a level. So imagine these assets wouldn't have any art on it, but they're just like white blocks. Normally you would do this, and I also did this already with this level, but I removed it as soon as I got the assets because I like it more to actually look at what I'm working with. Um, but yeah, at some point I might have to put in some ugly gray blocks or white boxes if the assets don't work at all. Um, so now the question is, do I want another one of those? So what I would like now is actually like a wall. So what I would need is from my artist to remove the stones from the asset. As you can see, they are in the they are connected to the tile. So I could have like a wall asset that I can place here. I can already kind of fake it a bit. Won't look pretty. Definitely not. So was it this collider? Yeah. Let me remove. Yeah, remove component here. And here the same. Remove. Here now is just paste the variable here, so I have them on the same x coordinate. So what you can see here right now here are the box colliders. See really quick, got a mess. Getting some live advice. Ah, okay, my camera, I guess. Oh no, it's the other direction, right? This. Ah, it's fine. Um. All right. Shouldn't touch my chin so much. Okay, so now what I need is basically an asset that would connect on this edge down to here, and then would connect down here. By the way, these green boxes are the colliders, if you don't know. So the colliders are basically the area where you can walk on or where your character can't walk through. So um, I'm putting them in the middle of the scene because I want like this 3D view. So the character's like walking in the on the tiles. That's why I have to set it in the middle. And also, of course, I have to set it on the side so you can't like walk into the wall from the side. Right. So this one I can place more freestyle, I guess something like this. And then I will also have something to hide here, although it will be probably like this asset will probably be long enough to hide it. Or I could just use some deco assets. So of course what I also have is all various kinds of stones and stuff like this that I can use and set there to hide stuff. But these are like final touches, I would say. So another thing you can see right now is um, this asset is overlapping with this asset, which I don't want. So I have to adjust the z-axis. This one is 2, this is 3. I forgot, I have to put it on 4 and on 2, on 1 I mean. Was it again? This is 0.2, this is like this. Wait, actually, if the asset is done, if it's final 2, 3, should be also on 3. And I put this one on 4. Yeah, no, this asset should be on top actually because it will kind of like overlap with the ground tile and make a smooth transition, or should make a smooth transition at least. So this is now the part where I will have to do some adjustments in the future, which is of course a bit annoying, but you have to do what you have to do, right? So basically, this is also like you can look at it like a lockout right now.